Welcome to the third hour of the Elias Macko Show. It is May 1st, by the way. Happy May, everyone. April showers bring May flowers. Certainly hope that's the case. Now, because it's May 1st, a couple things are changing. By the way, the minimum wage in Quebec is now $15.75. So the latest hike in minimum wage in effect as of today. There are other changes happening effective May 1st. One of them is Canada's rules on the hiring of temporary foreign workers. The new rules have come into effect as of today. Companies will now see their percentage of low-wage foreign worker hirings cut from 30% to 20%. So a company's workforce from 30% to 20% can be temporary foreign workers. There are certain exemptions, by the way. Construction industry exempt. They stay at 30%. Healthcare industry stays at 30%. But there are a lot of people asking questions about these changes that come into effect today, and the changes that Immigration Minister, the federal Immigration Minister, Mark Miller, has made since taking over his post in the cabinet. Let's go to Patrice Brunet right now, immigration lawyer, with his take on all these changes. Patrice, welcome back to the program.
Morning, Elias.
So let's get to what led to this decision, right? Why did the federal government say, okay, we got to overhaul what's happening with temporary foreign workers?
Well, actually, it's a rollback to the position that the federal government had a few years ago before COVID. So the cap was 20%. And what we saw after COVID with the situation where there's no unemployment, the companies were asking for a higher cap on the foreign workers, on the low wage for foreign workers that they could hire. So it was temporarily increased to 30%. We kind of expected it would be rolled back to 20%. So it's not a huge shift in the policy. It's just really going back to where it was before. Now, my only comment on that is I don't know if the government is reading different numbers than I am, but we're still in a situation where there's severe critical shortage of labor for low-wage workers. And low-wage workers are those in manufacturing plants. They're individuals who do essential work for companies, and those companies just cannot recruit locally. So I don't know what the numbers the government is seeing, but I'm certainly not seeing unemployment rates go up drastically in that category.
And it's so interesting, Patrice. And of course, Quebec is a special province, right? It has a lot of power on immigration, and our numbers, percentage-wise, are lower than the rest of the country. I do take a look at what I've seen in Ontario, right? And all of this is anecdotal, but I see time and again evidence where there's job fairs for just a few jobs. And the lineup is around the block, right, of people that are trying to find these jobs. And the unemployment rate, we've seen it, right, has been climbing higher and higher and higher. How do we know, Patrice? Like, how do we actually know what the right level is?
I'll give a very simple answer to this. I mean, you have to trust the companies that make those hiring decisions. They're really in the trenches, and on every single day, they're trying to recruit those people. And, we all noticed over the past 40, 50 years in Quebec and Canada, we have a population that has a higher education, generally speaking. So those low-wage worker positions are only going to become scarcer and scarcer as we continue to have our population stay in school and have jobs that pay a higher rate and require more skills. So that's a decision we took as a society, and I don't think we should roll back on that. But we're still gonna need those manufacturing workers, and if we want to continue to develop our manufacturing industry, in particular, we need to, of course, privilege our Canadian workers who want to hold those positions. But once you've emptied that reservoir, then we have to bring in quickly those foreign workers to fill those positions. Otherwise, the companies will simply stop. And we've seen it. We've seen meat processing factories who are just closing down because they just don't have those workers on the line.
Yeah, and some of this stuff is affecting Quebec's regions, right? I mean, that's the interesting thing here. You have a CAQ government that everyone keeps telling me CAQ government, all they care about is the regions. And then a story like you just mentioned, meat processing plants, many of them in the regions closing down. Let's say they don't have enough employees. But then I look at last week when the Quebec government, they were crowing over the fact that wages had increased in Quebec while wages in the rest of the country had declined and Quebec was doing catch up. And from the government's perspective, it's like, hey, it's because we have a more moderate approach on immigration numbers that wages are rising, right? Because there's just not body after body to fill, these low wage positions. What do you say? Right. What do you say to that aspect, right? Where someone say, business groups, of course they want cheap labor, but if we want to increase wages overall, we actually do need to tap on the brakes.
Yeah, we have to be careful about the use of cheap labor. It's not cheap labor, and those foreign workers, they have to be paid minimum wage in Quebec, which is the law. And it's if those companies, let's say meat processing plants, if we use that as an example, if they increase the wages even by $1 or $2 an hour, well, within a year or two, that's going to be reflected on everybody's bill. So, and we will be less competitive in our pork exports and our various products that we export because the cost of production will just keep going up. So the influx of foreign workers doesn't necessarily dilute the workforce, as some may say. It stabilizes the forces, the economic forces within a company. It just simply stabilizes them because we have legislation that guarantees minimum wage. And I just want to also comment on another point about those foreign workers is that a foreign worker who comes to work for a company will be very loyal, and it will bring stability to the workforce of the company. If you have a Canadian or Quebec citizen in a similar position, they always have the ability and the flexibility to cross the street or change jobs, go back to school. And that's what we're seeing on the ground with the employers, that they like the temporary foreign workers because of the stability. When someone comes from Mexico, from Guatemala, or other countries, and they're in their company, they know they're going to be there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they're not going to wake up in the morning, get a text message saying, from another worker saying, I'm not coming in today and I've switched jobs or I changed my mind. So that's also very important for stability of the companies.
Do you think the federal immigration minister, Mark Miller, is just playing politics here because he's dealing with his government's unpopular? And a lot of that has to do with people not being able to find housing, and people are talking about the links between immigration numbers and housing. Do you think that's what's happening here? This is a political decision because of those maybe polling pressures?
I would go as far as that conclusion. It may play a little bit, but like I said at the beginning of my comment, it's really rolling back to what it was during COVID. That 20% cap is really a rollback to what it was before. When they increased it to 30%, it was because of a severe labor shortage. I haven't seen that severe labor shortage disappear. So maybe it's simply a simple policy decision that they've taken, but it's certainly going to disrupt some of the operations of some of the companies and have an effect on the operations of those manufacturing companies who rely on low-wage foreign workers.
Patrice, got to leave it there. Always a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
Immigration lawyer Patrice Brunet right there.